Chapter 5 then of my player power ranking series. Welcome to the channel. I'm Tim, this is Egg Chasers, and yeah, position by position, number 10 to number 1, taking you through the best players on the planet and charting the rise and falls of the various players' journeys. And we arrive today at the Loosehead Locks. Now that's not a phrase that gets used very often, is it? Loosehead Lock. Obviously there are 2 second rows on a rugby field. I've had to separate the 2 of them. So on the previous video, and all of them are in the channel right now, hit subscribe and go and check those out if you missed it. The tight head locks, which is ordinarily the ones wearing 4, scrummaging on the right hand side behind the tight head prop. The bigger of the guys, the enforcer, going around whacking people and whacking rucks, whereas the loose head lock, typically on the left hand side in a scrum behind the loose head prop, who is the more athletic, the line out captain, most likely to be popping up in a wide channel, running like a gazelle and giving an insane offload. That's where the Loosehead Locks come in, and here is my journey through the top 10. There are some really good players that don't even make the list. This is what the top 10 looked like last time. Remember, this is on current form, so the recent rugby that we've seen. But so that the lists don't change too much, I do them just about every 6 months. So they don't change wildly from one list to the next, I take into account historic form as well. So a player's whole body of work, and also a bit of gut feeling in there as well, because it is all about opinions, and I'd love to know yours in the comments down below. So let me tell you, well, there's obviously some changes if you watch the video looking at tight head locks, where Scott Barrett featured. Last time out he was on the loose head lock list, but New Zealand have been using him in that number 4 jersey as a bit of an enforcer for them, so I've moved him across onto that list. Equally, Theo McFarland for Samoa has been, well, at the Rugby World Cup in 23, he was kind of used half the time as a lock and half the time as a flanker. He's now exclusively in the back row, so I've moved him into the discussion, which I'll have in the coming videos, about flankers. So he vacates his spot as well. But I can tell you there are 3 new faces on the list, meaning another one of these drops out. There are a lot of green arrows with players moving up on this list. So without further ado, let me get into it. Again, your thoughts in the comments down below. First new face appears at number 10, Pedro Rubiolo. Argentina had their best ever performance in a rugby championship. Pedro Rubiolo he started in 5 of those games, including the wins against New Zealand and South Africa. He started 3 matches in November as well. He's made that number 5 jersey for Argentina his own, and he has just gone around whacking people, carrying hard. It kind of plays a little bit like a traditional sort of tight headlock number 4, but he's very much more of the more athletic of the locks for Argentina, wearing number 5, and he's only 22. So Argentina have got quite a few players that are coming towards the end of their career. This is one guy who's just starting out. So he is at number 10. Number 9, Federico Ruzza. Again, we've had Argentina with their best ever performance in a rugby championship. Federico Ruzza, a key man of the Italian team that had the best ever performance in a Six Nations championship. And he has been awesome. He's 30 years of age now. You could argue coming into his prime years. Italy, another side that have got a lot of good young players. Federico Ruzza, one of the experienced heads, and he's had a really good last year and deserves to go up a spot to number 9. Another new face appears at number 8, Ruan Nokia. Second new face on the list, started 5 rugby championship games, including the 2 wins against New Zealand. I watched him live in the stadium and was really impressed by a couple of things actually. And I think the 2 things you get from Franco Mostert, who was injured for South Africa for the Rugby Championship, and that was like alarm bells were ringing a little bit amongst Bok fans. It's like, we don't have Franco Mostert. What should we do? Do we put Pieter-Steph du Toit in second row? Do we play Etzebeth and Snyman, kind of two number 4s together? Step forward Ruan Nokia, who's been great for the Bulls for a while, but the way that he adapted to international rugby was exceptional. His line-out work is amazing, just like Franco Mostert. His work rate, his tackle count, the amount of interactions he has in a rugby match, meaningful, just hitting rucks. He just does a lot of the stuff that makes other people able to go and do what makes them great. So, like a workhorse, one of those guys in a team where he might not get man of the match awards or headlines written about him, but his teammates will absolutely love him. He's one of those guys. I was seriously impressed by Ruan Nokia. He's taken his chance, and yeah, he's put himself in a great position. moving ahead into 2025 with the box. Up one spot to number 7 is Scott Cummings. URC win with Glasgow. I made a mistake actually. I got Gilchrist and Cummings mixed up on the previous video. They're kind of similar players actually. Scotland don't really have an out-and-out number 4 and an out-and-out number 5. They're both workhorse, work rate kind of guys. Cummings, good line-out technician, very high work rate. The only blemish on his record was that red card he got after 10 minutes against South Africa, but he has had a really, really, really good year and deserves to go up a spot to number 7. And the third new face on the list, the youngest of the new faces on the list and the highest new entry on the list, Tupu Vai. Just like Ruan Nortje, he has had a breakout year and has given his team massive confidence that he can 100% wear that number 5 jersey and do a really good job on the highest stage. He started all 6 Rugby Championship games. He started those big 3 autumn international November tests against France, Ireland and New Zealand, and he was excellent. The fact that New Zealand were coming off the back of the Rugby World Cup with Sam Whitelock retiring, a generational all-time great. And yeah, of course you're going to miss someone of that calibre, but they didn't miss him nearly as much as many feared that New Zealand would. Fair play to Tupu Vai. He's been absolutely outstanding this year. Number 6, and he could be going up the list in the year ahead. James Ryan goes up a spot as well. 28 years of age. I'm so impressed with him. When you think back to, what we talk in May, he was on the bench for the Champions Cup final for Leinster. And you wondered, because he was kind of started some and was on the bench a bit for the Six Nations, you wondered whether he was a player that was going to, with the emergence of Joe McCarthy for Ireland, whether he was going to start tailing off a little bit and other young players might come and start taking his place. He answered that in big fashion with an amazing performance in that second test against South Africa where he put it about. He was brilliant starting that match. And then he started against New Zealand, Argentina and Australia in November. Very good performance from James Ryan. It's a British and Irish Lions year. The fact he can play as that number 4 and number 5 could mean that he sneaks onto the tour, I reckon. Potentially, we'll see. Thibaut Flament is number 4. Now, he missed quite a bit of the last year, since the Rugby World Cup with injury. He came back for the final 2 games of the Six Nations and made France instantly better. Their line-out suddenly functioned. Things started to work when Thibaut Flament was in the team. He started all 3 November tests where France got 3 wins. He's exceptional. He's only 27 as well. He could yet get to the top of this list. Seriously good player. And yeah, the little match-up this weekend, as I record this, between Emmanuel Meafou and Thibaut Flament going to Durban and playing against Eben Etzebeth. That's an interesting one to watch. But on the international stage for France, he's been great. He's at number 4. Number 3, down a spot, is Franco Mostert. Now, he was injured quite a bit. I think, was it in the second test against Ireland he actually got injured? I know he went off quite early in that game, if I remember, and they missed him. And then he missed the Rugby Championship. And I've talked about how good Ruan Nortje was, but you can't really fully replace what Franco Mostert does for this team. And he's 34 years of age now. I guess the big question is, how much gas is in the tank? Can he get back and play at the level that he did previously? I mean, he showed that he can in that... It was against Wales, wasn't he? He was absolutely brilliant. Played half a game against Scotland, then played the whole game pretty much against Wales and was outstanding. Him and Etzebeth in the lock were brilliant. And that could be the combination for 2025. But could Mostert end up being one of the players who makes way for someone like Nortje come the 2027 Rugby World Cup? It's going to be an interesting one to watch. Mostert might be down one spot, but still an exceptional player. Up one spot with... swapping places with Franco Mostert, I've got Maro Itoje. 30 years of age now. And he had a little period where he wasn't the Maro Itoje that he burst on the scene as in his early years in international rugby. But in 2024, he played every single minute of every single match for England. Now, England did not have a good year. Maro Itoje did. On an individual, personal level, he had a very good year. He was exceptional, an absolute nuisance. Those games out in New Zealand, through the November tests, he was Just one of the... I can understand why I would hate Maro Itoje if I was an opposition fan. As an England fan, I love him. He's everywhere. His arms are in every maul. His maul defence, in fact, his maul defence is probably the best in world rugby. And for that alone, he's so valuable for England. But very athletic, very good player, and he's had a brilliant year. I think deserves to go up to number 2. If you disagree, hey, tell me in the comments down below, which means the number 1 is still Tadhg Beirne. What can you say about Tadhg Beirne that I haven't already said? If you watch the channel, you know how much I rate this guy. I mean, I did have to consider moving him across to the blindside flankers because he was used at 6 in the November Test matches, and he was used in the number 6 jersey for Ireland in that second Test in Durban against South Africa. He was absolutely brilliant in the Six Nations, where he was largely in the second row, and I think that's where Tadhg Beirne will be playing for Ireland. I don't know, who knows. On the next one, I might have to consider moving him across to blindside flanker, but what a player. Line out, breakdown, ball carries, his engine. He always looks exhausted after 2 minutes of a game, and you're like, oh, he's absolutely gassed. And then he just carries on at that level for the next 78 minutes. He is a phenomenon. And British and Irish Lions, potential captain. I'd say probably Tadhg Beirne and Maro Itoje could be the lock pairing for the British and Irish Lions. Both of them would have a shout to at least be in consideration for being the captain on that tour as well. There is the top 10. Now, I mentioned there were some really good players, didn't even make the list. So I should definitely mention Adam Beard. Terrible year for Wales. Adam Beard's actually been really, really good. Great line out forward, and I very much considered him in these bottom spots. And Adam Beard and Welsh fans might feel a bit hard done by that he's not in. Very good. And the other one I'll just give a little mention to, Jeremy Williams for Australia. I think he's been great as well. Young, very promising. He could be on this list in the years and months ahead. Tell me what you think about that. Like I say, a lot of green arrows, mainly because Scott Barrett and Theo McFarland aren't considered on this list. I'll be interested to know what you reckon. And hit subscribe on the channel so you don't miss any of the other videos coming very soon. I'll see you on the next one.